Alrighty, let's talk a little bit about what was posted by myself, to say the least. But anyway, it won't be about the UCIC. I already got that covered. As far as certain people in the U.S. don't go right for the passport, your name is listed as a problem. You want to play by a false country's rules, you will sit here when it gets bombed by an airplane, and you'll be part of the casualties. Alright, what is Europe facing if they don't do nothing? A spaceship will come down and obliterate them? No. The X project will go off. That's all you need to know. Which the government of the United States does not have control of, neither does Europe or any country on this planet, and so forth and etc. But it states that all things must be investigated thoroughly and accurately, with that of truth and honesty, or that of over 40,000 missiles will hit this planet and destroy it. Boom, gone, see ya. But I also know of quite a few other planets and warcraft out there by spacecraft that, they're just itching to hit that freaking button and whatnot. So the fact is when this country starts running its mouth and whatnot, you forget that you wrote on a piece of paper. You forget as part of the United States, in the sense of European North Canada America, because apparently people here just read every lie that's printed. And that's a fact. Got it documented. There's no high IQs here. And that's what I was actually supposed to come here for, to see if there's any intelligent life here. Yeah, guy from North Charlottesville, Carolina, sitting there entertaining people. Yeah, there's no intelligent life here. Maybe that's why I'm bored, but the fact of it is, it can't be ignored that the United States was not authorized by Britain, nor Europe, nor any other country inside that of the European the U.S. Union country that states the following fact. And the guy from Australia in Charlottesville, shut the fuck up. You got arrested more times than you ever have. And your little daddy, Terry Landis, got himself in trouble. But if I remember correctly, isn't your real name Chuck and her real name Sarah Landis? Or the ones that ran the Ponzi scheme over in Australia. Now you're stuck on YouTube telling jokes where your voice ain't working. Let's see, what else are you responsible for? Steve Gross. Everyone thought Steve Gross did that. No. That kid has another real name. Yeah, kid's like 10 years older than I am. He has another real name. But anyway, the first priest, you're looking at more counts of murder than the church can handle. I mean, it won't go to stone this time, so that's the interesting part. As far as Jehovah's Witness, which is it's the last name, Javasia. It's not really Jehovah's Witness, it's just there to annoy you. It's actually a test to see whether or not you would go talk to people. If you've been in your house too long, they show up. Someone to talk to for 5 seconds to 5 minutes. As far as it being Amish, please, man. Seriously. Ask clown them a long time ago. But in all seriousness, it's like I told people, not to misuse things. Taylor Swift, you wonder why I'm constantly putting your name there, because you were up in Bodine's area when I was in Trout Run. Did some shit you shouldn't have done. And don't tell me it was by gunpoint, because no one's believing you. Especially with your Netherland other one that keeps throwing her slipper in the water. But anyway, what'll happen to Europe if they ignore it, and every country inside Europe, and not so much Russia, but it can affect Russia, to China, to Africa, to South America, to North America, but its real name is Canada. So you don't really need to say North Canada or South Canada, it's all Canada. As far as the Mexican claim, it's been dismissed. I'm not going to keep dismissing it. Because you guys are more denser than a box of wood as far as understanding stuff. As far as the problem that dates back until 1984, me calling people certain things that she didn't like, it's just tough shit, so grow up. Especially in the California coastline, which isn't really there. The fact that North America, not North Carol or whatever, there is North Carol. The fact that you guys want to go to war and all this is simple. Some people who aren't a whole person want to go to war all the time. They get it stuck in their head, hypnotism, shit like that. As far as well over 450,000 murders, and you can't blame that. They attacked the country. 911 was proven that it was a U.S. citizen who bombed and destroyed the Twin Towers by the use of a cover-up of an airplane. End of story. That case got dismissed by that of people's own stupidity. Let's see. The so-called bombing or deterioration of the bridge between Chicago and Canada, where supposedly someone lit a bomb and boom, it blew a hole and a vehicle fell through. That was also done by a U.S. citizen. And whatnot. So, let's see, what else? Words aren't enough to start a war. I can sit there and blatantly say I'm going to bomb you every day of your entire life, but if I never do it, it's just words. That's why words were outlawed back in words are outlawed since 1358. And in which the form of talking was hand gestures. Now, if North Europe and South Europe don't do nothing, you all will also fall under the Emancipation Proclamation law, which states the following: that your parents and your grandparents, your aunts, your uncles, your cousins, anyone that, even by foster or orphanage standards, they will have to disown you. And by saying that if they tether or attach to you, they will have to do such. At the age of 13, all parents, if you want to call them parents, all people who are male and female must biologically end and sever all things with their children. Doesn't mean they can't live with you. It just means that you use the correct name. So if your name is, let's say, Jafan Lohan, then Jafan Lohan at his male or female kid's name, not his name, but he has to start calling him by that, and the kid has to start calling the male and female who's older by their real name, not mother, father, and all that crap. If you haven't done this, then you fall under the Emancipation Proclamation law, which also talks about war. In a state of war under such where the Emancipation Proclamation law has not been done, in such that they bring back a falsehood of children. And what a falsehood of children is children who aren't really here. They try to bring dead people back, or they try to bring their little dead kid back, or stuff like that. That's why the hospitals normally will handle that of a child, and that's mainly the kid died by whether or not he or she was ever alive in the first place, and then put in such of a box in a coffin. It's not to be open at all. You're not allowed to open or see it, and thus it goes into the ground. It's not supposed to be made of heavy wood or heavy metal or light metal, or even that of real heavy wood or light wood. It has to be made of something which is that deteriorates. Normally, infants don't stay in the ground that long, so the requirement for such something that deteriorates rather quickly is required. In the event that the Emancipation Proclamation law isn't upheld, and you just start running credit cards and socials on your kid because you think you have the right to do such, or you think you have the right to take over the registry from another country, or you think you have the right to the credit and SSI from another country because it's a foster kid in an orphanage and you took care of it since day one, and now you think you can do whatever you want. You can't. You're not allowed to use it whatsoever. Signed, sealed, documented, and filed in Europe. So don't go looking at foster care wondering what the hell the problem is. Any and all foster kids or orphanage kids, their files can be unsealed. Inside that of North Canada, America, or European North Canada, America, all of them can be unsealed, just cannot be unsealed in front of that of the foster parent, whether they call themselves mother or father, which is illegal to do under foster care and orphanage statuses. You are not allowed to call yourself, if you're babysitting or if you are the one who signs the paper for a little child to grow up, you are not allowed by any means of the law to call yourself a mother, father, aunt, uncle, a grandmother, grandfather, or anything of that. If they tell you they want to cut all communications with you, you do. Even if you're not hired by foster care or the orphanage, you've signed on to this already. When you sign on to it, being that in this country, you sign also on to that of the European laws against any and all things that an older person could do to a kid. That's why a lot of celebrities are sending their kids to foster care or an orphanage. Understand this: if you send them to foster care and orphanage and they are your kids and you just want to get that law to protect them, you also got to understand Emancipation Proclamation is required no matter what. So, since day one and to the end of their life of a kid that you had that isn't a foster kid, ain't an orphanage, you must support that child. The government will not support that child. If your so-called elected officials screw that up, we will not reimburse you for it by any means of any ways of any type of employment. In 1982 to 1985, the United States fucked that up and kept it somewhat to themselves. It was noted in the European Journal, Wall Street Journal, that the United States had fucked that up. They now fall under the Emancipation Proclamation law of such, in that of the politicians, the representatives, the Senate, and the Congress, that they no longer have the right to represent anyone, nor does the Senate have the right to approve anything to be sent to that of the Congress, nor to the President, which is another name, but I'm not using the correct name because that's all they want me to do. Just use the correct name for what is actually referred to by reference of an example, President. As far as the Irish people, Irish English, they say they've been around. Most of you haven't been around that long, so stop calling yourself old. just so you know. In the event that North European countries fail to sign on to such, and any and all residents that ever use anything against the military or against such of the government employees of such that says, if you go against me, I'll send my other one in Europe against you, and such, if they make the phone call and tell their other one that, or change the phone line so that their other one knows of that and acts like someone else, that is immediate Emancipation Proclamation by law. That means I can throw your ass in the middle of the ocean, forget about you on the board with a little McDonald's Happy Meal, and say, hey, go fuck yourself for the rest of your life. Because you technically just signed off of every major, actually to your major, any and all countries. And such a country does not defend itself. Therefore, it enacts this Emancipation Proclamation of War, which states the following: that any person can walk into a gun shop, regardless to a crime or a felony or anything of a misdemeanor, to that of any broken laws and purchase of a gun or an assault rifle, in such to set that of the government straight, or to just simply protect themselves to go to another country. If you fall under the Emancipation Proclamation law, and where you violate the law way too many times, and no country will accept you, thus, and they throw you in the ocean with a Happy Meal on a board that floats and whatnot, and you make it to land. Normally done to murderers and killers, or anyone who threatens too much of a country. Understand this: if it's for the simple fact of wealth or gain, you might want to stick that money that you're stealing back into that person's account, because it doesn't take much for a bullet to add up to where it's legally allowed for that person to use such of a bullet against you, and there's no reformation of revenge or vengeance against that person. You cannot make a clone or anyone else in such one person being tortured and the other person looking exactly like them, and then put it against the other person that has done nothing, making a person at odds. Anyway, that's it for this one.